Kia ora and welcome to the New Zealand edition for the second week in a row. Across the ditch, I'm here in my All Blacks colours. Joining me, we have a few coaches this week to wrap up all things round 18. It was a fantastic round of footy, guys. Joining me, we'll start with the man, the Guns N' Roses, unfortunate on the weekend to cop his first L of the season. But Ben, thanks for joining us, mate.
Pleasure, mate. Pleasure. There's a real atmosphere and excitement tonight, I'm gathering. So obviously finals time coming up, and it's good to see you this week, Scotty, as opposed to just your name last week.
Yes, it is. It is good to be here in person, and the Wi-Fi is working well. Joining us, boys, we've got Coach of Phenomenal. Tom is here. Hello, Tom.
Hello, Scott. Can't really say it's a pleasure being here, but I'll grit my teeth and get through it tonight.
Very good, mate. It's always great to have you on. And, of course, joining us, Coach of the Rabbitohs, Daniel. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good, Scott. Just echoing what Ben said, very good to see you this week as opposed to the faceless man sort of setup we were rolling with last week. So good to see you alive and well in New Zealand.
Very good, boys. We'll flip the camera around, see what that does. Hey, there we go. That's a bit better. All right, we are going to get stuck into it, boys. There was a little bit of confusion. I didn't really scroll down. It was a bit of an error from me, but the pig of the week wasn't Brad. He was excellent with his second highest score of the round, but it was in fact Team GC, boys, getting the pig with a massive score over 2,500, and he came home hard late with Mason Redman. Took Miller and Zachy Merritt for him, boys. Zach putting it all together, and boy, he was happy about it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really been building the last, month has Team GC, and it's great signs leading into next season as well. He's gone enormous. If we have a scroll through that midfield, taking the Jack Steele VC, which was probably a wise decision at the time, but bit of hindsight probably suggests he could have gone even bigger had he gone with Laird like a lot of other coaches did. So some massive scores, multiple 140s, a 160, which is unheard of. And he's, I believe, also been spending a bit of time across the Dutch, according to the socials. So I'm not sure whether there's something in the water over there, Scotty, but or whether you've been colluding in your time over in New Zealand. But seems to be working for him.
No, there's definitely something in the water, boys. The water tastes fantastic here, by the way. It absolutely magnificent for a man who drinks a lot of water. New Zealand water, top notch. Any more thoughts, Rabs and Ben?
Yeah, just a massive score, and can't be underestimated, this achievement from Team GC, pumping out a 2,500. Very foreign ground for all teams, let alone Team GC. But I think you hit the nail on the head, Scotty. Very, very happy with his own work, it'd be fair to say, based on the stuff that's come through in the chat, and that's all well and good, but we're not going to see him in the finals, so there's still some work to be done for next year. But yes, maybe the New Zealand influence, I don't know whether the Kiwis were inspired by those games. I think it was St Kilda and Sydney back in the early 2010s, whether that really got them across the line. But a very good score nonetheless for Zach, so very impressive.
Yeah, topped off a really good period for him. He's been one of the form teams of the comp, to be honest, post the bye, and he showed some really good signs. So leading into next year, you like to think that would continue, and if he puts together the first half of the year, he might be around the top 8 like he was years ago. So good to see him up there.
Very good, boys. Excellent pick of the week. Let's get into it, because round 18, it was season defining, as we previewed last week. We had the Crouching Lions up against McRae, who've done it again in a top 4 battle, and it was Sam who continues. He came out in pre-season. He said he was going to win the comp, and boys, he is looking very good.
Yeah, very good indeed. Obviously led by his skipper in Rory Laird, who, as Tom mentioned, a few other coaches did as well this week. But bringing in Gawn as a unique this week for Sam, not paying off, but I think it will moving forward. Pretty much locks up either second or third spot. So I think having a look at the proceedings, him and Huey will play each other next week unless something drastic happens, which is fantastic result for Sam considering only joining last year. So he's been good all year and continues to put the wins on the board. And I guess for Brett, first time out of the top 4, which we did allude to last week as a high likelihood. 2 losses in a row and just out on points 4. But at the business end, he's just led out the top 4. So.
Yeah, huge result, particularly for Brett, I think, as you've just alluded to there, Ben. That just about a resident in the top 4 over the last few years, and now certainly not without a possibility of finishing in the top 4, but has made life a little bit more difficult for himself given this result. So interesting matchup when you look at it. Most of the pods probably in Brett's favour, to be honest, other than the standout being led as the captaincy. So your captaincy choice is going to continue to be crucial in the final rounds.
Very good, boys. Let's move on to the next matchup. It was Smith's Crips up against my boys, the Sarongs. And Liam really needed to win to keep any hopes of a top 8 finish. And he was a bit unlucky. He scored very well, but I was very happy with my boys' performance on the weekend, despite Liam and Rory Laird going absolutely massive. It was nice to have a decent captain myself. Boys, what did you see in this one?
Yeah, I think you'd be very disappointed, Mulesy, in the output of Tim English. Obviously, a premium in that forward line, and up against St Kilda, who I believe Evan Ryder was sort of subbed out early with a potential injury, so only going 58 against what would appear to be pretty sort of easy opposition. You'd be very disappointed in. Outside of that, obviously the VC on Laird, great call from him, but on the other end, yourself, Scott, I'm sure you'd be quite happy with your call in Sinclair there.
Yeah, I think for you, Scotty, putting it together when it matters most, 3 wins on the trot and locking away that final spot. So very happy, obviously, for yourself. But for Mulesy, we sort of highlighted that first week after the bye as him being a real danger team. And I think he's faced some stiff opposition, and unfortunately he's lost 4 of those 5. So not to be for him this year. Obviously doing really well last year and taking it out, but I think it just goes to show the strength of the top 8, top 10 this year. So.
Yeah, absolutely, boys. Well said there. I'm sure we'll get into next week. We'll get into a bottom 8 maybe prediction. I think Liam would be the favourite there to take it out. Let's move on to your matchup, Ben. Or it could be Liam or Tom or even Team GC, but we'll get into that next week. Hugh versus Ben, a bit of the housemate rivalry here. Hugh getting the job done, boys. What did we see here?
Oh, well, I think the one that stands out for me is there was a lot of chat in last week's podcast about Hugh's chances resting on that F6 position. And I can't help but notice that Josh Carmichael coming out with the 111 as opposed to, I think it was Windhager who is rolling with last week. So that's had a fair impact on the matchup when you sort of look at other things that are sort of going on there. And I'm sure we'll touch on it more, but on your side there, Ben, probably just a few pods not quite getting it done with Cripps, Wines and Darcy all sort of hovering around the 80 sort of mark. So, not a huge amount in it, but, Hugh getting the job done, which is a massive result, really, in the context of the season.
I'd like to go to a bit of hat watch, Ben, and just sort of work out. I'm sure you've done a few of the sums as to how many points you are outside of that top 100. Have a look at, I guess, what your plans are moving forward to try and get your way back into hat territory.
Yes, you're right, Tom. It's certainly front of mind. 20 points a week on average is what we need, but hopefully, if all goes to plan, your man Des will be coming in, so that'd be quite handy. But no, there was very, very little communication between the household this week, which is not unusual, to be fair, in the sense. Putting Josh Carmichael on straight away for him and producing was a miraculous score, really. Started it off, but to be honest, it could have been bigger for him. Timmy English and Unique and Josh Kelly going down both well so far. So he could have easily cleared 2,400. So yeah, he's in a really good spot, and yeah, we'll play off against Sam, you would imagine, for the 2v3 after next week.
There was even chat of Hugh sort of joining tonight's podcast, but doesn't appear to be the case. You haven't sort of locked him in his room or, done something untoward to him, have you, Ben?
I wish I had a funny story, but no, I'm not sure of the whereabouts of the coach of the Libertadores. Unfortunately, he was missing in action for the training session tonight for the Bays as well. So really not sure what has happened. Yeah, I wish I could provide some more content, but I can't.
Very good, boys. Well done for Hugh. Top 4 finish. Might be the first time he's sort of been in the top 4. He's usually around the 8 or just missing the 8 because he didn't play a bottom side or whatever. But he's done well this year. So that's awesome. This matchup, boys, the B Sharps beat Total Eclipse of the Heart. We will move on. The Glen Manton Fan Club up against the Keys. Glen Manton's got the job done, boys. And what was we predicted last week? This one could go either way with all the pods.
Yeah, just a sign of improvement again for the Glen Mantons, particularly when you really do some thorough investigation of this matchup and look at the captaincy choice of Sean with Josh Kelly's 57, I think it was, as captain. So to get a win by 100 points for him, pretty impressive there. And on Jake's side, just too many blokes not contributing enough. I'm just looking there. Yes, I think he has made the most of Carmichael's score on the bench, but yeah, just not enough sort of happening there for Jake. And yeah, a good win for Sean, who's been a steady improver throughout this season.
Yeah, just a quick one there. 14 uniques and only three going 100 for Jake. So Tom Green probably the bottom of that lot with a 43, which is extraordinary considering how good he is. But yeah, not to be, unfortunately. But for Sean, he comes up to 10th after a struggling start. He's recovered really well, so he'll probably just miss out. But yeah, promising signs again second half of the year.
All right, we will move on, boys. It was the Burtons versus Phenomenal, and it was both teams scored outstandingly. It must be said, boys, led by that tackling machine, Rory Laird. But it was the Burpins just getting over the line, and pretty much we'll get into the preview this week, but it looks like he's sewn up the final spot. Talk us through this one, Tom. Unlucky not to get the job done this week.
Yeah, fantasy is a bit of a silly game, isn't it? Yeah, a bit of a meaningless sort of pastime that doesn't really mean too much. So, no, very very disappointed about this one. Yeah, obviously was up against it going in. Brad was in great form, so yeah, had to, I guess, make every point a winner with, I guess, the VC on Steele. I rolled the dice and captain Laird, which I was obviously pleased with. But the moves that the Burpins made at the trade table, obviously brought in Laird, which would have been massive and potentially overturn the result there. As well as there was another Sinclair, I think, that he covered both those pods. So yeah, a massive 160 and a 140 that he's brought in. Full credit to him for his work at the trade table. He's obviously done his research and got the chocolates to get himself into the 8. So good.
Plenty of positives for Brad. 3 of his last 4 he's come steaming home, and massive score and uniques such as Josh Kelly going down, and even the likes of Brayshaw and Sean Darcy not clearing 80. So it could have been a 2,500 for him. But he's in a really good spot. Unfortunately, for yourself, Tom, just slipping outside the 8, so needing some magic this week, which we'll get into later. But I can't remember the last time our 2 grand finalists, Scotty, didn't make the 8 the following year, which sort of shows where the strength is at, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I think the competition, there's been a few teams really step it up this year, and we've had a nice inclusion, which we'll get into our new side and what they've been able to achieve this year. But you're quite right. It's very unusual, to have 2 grand finalists not make the finals in the next year. So We will move on, boys. It was Team GC. We talked about pick of the week, fantastic score, getting over the top of the midfielders. We'll probably just have a word or two about this one, boys.
Joe Danaher still in the side for the midfielders, which just about says it all, really. Huge score from Zach. Okay score from mids, considering some of the players, but yeah, big difference in the end between these two.
All right. Well, we will move on, boys. And this was the rivalry game. This was it. It's been brewing since the preseason. It's been brewing throughout the season. Not so much lately. It's been all quiet on the Western Front. But the Sisterhoods beat the Hoffleberries in what was a closer game than probably we anticipated. Talk us through this one, boys, because there was some nerves in the Sisterhoods camp, no doubt.
Yeah, very much closer than they would have hoped, I think, particularly given the results over the last month to 6 weeks. They've really been building nicely, the Sisterhood. Obviously, the captaincy selection, of which Alex has taken charge. Scotty, I believe Coach Alex was none too pleased with himself about some comments on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, heaping praise on her captaincy selection. I think the couple of weeks since haven't quite been to the level they were expecting with, Max Gorn, the 75 there on the weekend. Care to comment on that?
They've been doing so well, and Alex have been picking some sensational captains, but unfortunate for them, the last couple of weeks with Lockie Neal and now Max Gorn, of course, not working out. I'm sure the Sisterhoods will bounce back. Alex will get into some good form this week with her captaincy picks, so not much to worry there, I don't think, for him.
I've had it on good word that should be looking to release maybe a subscription sort of service next year called Crippers Skippers. So for those who are interested in following along, make sure you keep an eye out for those ones.
I love that. Very good. What else did you see in this one, Ben? For Surge, very quiet. Sisterhood's also
very
been
quiet. You can be very quiet when Callum Jamison is rolling around in your second ruck position with a 45. But to be fair, he's had some really big ceilings there. Otherwise, with his man Pendles in game 350 going really well for 130, so credit where it's due. But yeah, when you skip a Bean Keys at 76 and you only lose by 60 odd, I think it is, it's pretty costly. So, but yeah, it continues the run for the Hood. So you slide into the 4 with the round to go, and pretty much, we'll get into it, but pretty much just need to win this week to sew that up. So what a story it continues to be.
Can I just point out too, I think it was mentioned on last week's podcast whether it would be fitting for Surge to whack the captaincy on Scott Pendlebury, given it was a milestone game, and can't help but notice that if he had done that, he would have in fact won the matchup, which I think there's got to be some irony there as well, just to notice.
Absolutely. We give great advice here on this pod. We sometimes offer trade advice. We offer captain's advice. More often than not, it works out. So I'm game 350 against the Crows. He was always going to go. It's bizarre. Rabs, let's talk about your matchup. A good score for you this week up against King Kunta and, in the mix for that top 4 spot.
Yeah, one of the great mysteries, really. Yeah, I'm in the mix for the top 4, but we are. So, yeah, no, good win. Obviously, King Kunta has had a bit of a tough season, so this was just a must-win game, which became a lot easier when Jack Sinclair was the VC. So, just plodding along. Obviously, still need to make some changes. Decided to hold Whitfield. Don't really know why. Just wanted to fix up Ned Reeves, I think, as was discussed last week. So he became Todd Goldstein, who's actually been okay of late, given he's the sole ruck at North Melbourne. So, yeah, big game coming up this week, though, as we'll touch on shortly.
Yeah, very important. I can't help but notice you bring Todd Goldstein in and the Roos have a win for the first time in ages. Is there a correlation there, do you think, Rabs?
We'll find out pretty quickly this week, I would have thought. I didn't mind what I saw with Goldie, given that the X-Man is currently out of the side and a little bit financially strapped. So, thought it was the best option and proved to probably be so this week.
Very good, boys. Well, let's look ahead to this round, and it's the final round of the regular season fixtures. And we've got some crackers here and some top 4 ramifications, top 8 ramifications. It's all happening. So to talk you through that, we're going to start with the Crouching Lions up against my boys. So it's 4th v 7th. What happens here, boys, if the Crouching Lions win? What sort of scenarios have they got going on?
Well, the scenario is that if the Crouching Lions win, he's relying on myself to beat the Sisterhoods, and he would finish in 4th place. So, as we alluded to earlier, like things are probably out of the hands of Brett, which is unusual for him. But a win, well, it's a must-win game. His only chance of making top 4 is to win this game. So that doesn't necessarily mean he will be there. But yeah, looking at the pods, it's going to be a pretty even game. There are a few pods though for this time of season between you two, but. I guess I'm a little bit biased that I'm probably leaning towards you, Scott, there in this matchup. But we'll
Yeah, beautifully summed up. I think for you there, Scotty, though, with the win and other results going your way, you can finish as high as 5th, I think, from what I can tell with the points. So, obviously 4 to 6 there, all on 40 points. Yourself a game behind, but with a better points for. So, yeah, it could be a critical weekend, and it's amazing how these fixtures have all lined up in the last round. So, lots of stories to come.
Yeah, plenty happening. It's it's going to be a real tough battle against Brett. He's got some good pods there, and just deciding on my trades last week, getting rid of Cripper was excellent, really, and bringing in Zach Merritt, I was happy with that. And unfortunately, with Clayton Oliver going down, bringing in Callum Mills as well, who performed, was also nice. So yeah, we'll get thinking of some things to do. All right, we've got yourself, Ben. You're up against the Armour Cray. You've done it again, who are flying at the moment. This won't really affect too much, but it's a good preview.
Yeah, not many pods at all. 6, I think. So depending how teams go, it should be quite tight. Obviously, the big one looming is Rory Laird. So hopefully we can cover that well. But I don't think it will affect too much in the final ladder positions. Sam should finish either 2nd or 3rd. So he's rolling nicely and should be a good match.
Beautiful. Anything to add, boys, on that one? Or let's move on. All right, we're going to move on. It's Smith's Crips up against Total Eclipse of the Heart. Smith's Crips to win, boys. We'll talk about him more next week in the bottom 8 finals. Yes.
Yep. Yeah, a bit of off-field distraction for Mr. Healy at the moment, I believe. Assistant coach maybe on the scene. So, whether that's good news for next year or bad news, I'm not sure. We'll let that play out.
Very good. We love those little squirts. We've got the Liberatores up against the Keys here. Hugh, really flying at the moment. Should be an easy win, boys.
Yeah, I think so.
As long as
beautiful.
Well.
Yeah, the Carmichael situation, that's intriguing how that sort of plays out for Hugh. But let's move on. The B Sharps up against phenomenal to win here. Been in far too good a form, but just been unlucky, boys.
Completely agree. But the way it stands, they both win. You need to outscore Brad by, what's that, 300, Tom? So for a minor miracle.
All right. The Glen Mountain Fan Club up against our pick of the week. Team GC, boys, plenty of uniques in this one, without a doubt. Do we see Team GC continuing to roll on? This is probably the tale of the 2 improved sides, I would say, on the back half of the year. So what's going to happen?
Team GC for me. I think form going their way, both improving, but Team GC's got bigger ceilings.
Yeah, agreed.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's move on. It's the Burton, so we've just got to win, as we've talked about before, and they should do so against the Huckleberries. But yeah, Surge is always a dangerous opponent, boys. What do you see happening?
Tipping a win for Burton's, but hoping for a loss.
Yeah, you'd think so. Enough high ceiling uniques for Brad, and but yeah, obviously as Kelly is unique again, so he'll cover him well and move into a finals position for next week. Okay.
Excellent, boys. And very quickly, the midfielders up against King Kuta. Probably the midfielders for mine.
Yeah, agreed.
Beautiful. And well, last but not least, this is a very tasty matchup. Again, we started with the Crouching Lions up against my team. If Brett does win, he's a chance of top 4, but it all rests on this game between the Sisterhoods and the Rabbitohs, boys. We'll get Rabs your take on it first. Obviously, Lockie Whitfield, an issue for you, and the Sisterhoods with Josh Kelly out. So hoping that Lockie Whitfield gets up for your side.
Yeah, reasonably confident he will, from what I've read. Just didn't really like the other defender options that were out there and wanted to fix up the ruck. So just rolled the dice with that. And obviously, we'll trade him if we need to this week. But yeah, got a few ideas of what we might do, but we'll just have to wait and see what tomorrow night brings at the selection table. But yeah, I think it's going to be reasonably close. Nick Dacos is probably, can't believe I'm saying it, but a pod that concerns me, even though I traded him out 10 weeks ago because his form's been amazing. So. And Gawn and English, I think, are going to be interesting for the Hoods because obviously their recent form hasn't been great, but their ceilings are large. So I think that's going to have a fair impact.
They're playing each other, which is a fair irony type thing. But yeah, massive implications, Scotty. I don't know which way it goes. Probably the Hoods to continue their hot form, but yeah, it'll be exciting to watch.
Yeah, Hoods
Absolutely.
as well.
Hoods for you, Tom. Yeah, it's going to be a real tough one here. Captaincy choice, of course, as we know, will come down to the wire. And yeah, it'll be a fantastic finish to the round, boys. Can the Sisterhoods finish in the top 4 in their first season of fantasy? What a story that would be, but we'll wait and see what happens. Any final words, boys?
Good luck to all, and yeah, it'll be exciting to see how it all plays out. 6 of the top 8 play each other, so good luck to all.
See you in 2023.
Very good, boys. Well done. As always, we'll be with you next week. Not across the ditch. We'll be back in Adelaide next week, so we'll be able to do it all together. And yeah, we'll talk about the finals. We'll just mention briefly the bottom 8 finals. And yes, good luck and go well.